Listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another podcast in which we talk to people who are involved in independent music, whether it's punk, hardcore, indie rock, metal, emo, whatever it is, as long as it's of the DIY variety. And that can mean a lot of different things. Maybe its origins are, maybe it's able to expand much further beyond that. And this person, I think, exemplifies this particular quality because he has played in bands for his entire adult life. Jordan Buckley. He currently plays in Better Lovers, who, if you have been living under a rock, it is a quote-unquote supergroup formed out of the ashes of Every Time I Die, which is the band that he previously played guitar in, and then also features Greg from Dillinger Escape Plan, and Will Putney, producer extraordinaire, and the man behind a lot of cool music like And Fit for an Autopsy. But Better Lovers has absolutely captured so many people's attentions, and they just released their first full-length called Highly Irresponsible, and it's an incredible piece of work. If you like any aggressive music in any capacity, you will find songs or the entire record that will really speak to the core of who you are as far as, music is concerned, because that's why we're all here, right? And, this week has been long. We're talking about the political climate of the United States of America for those of you that, don't live in America. But you undoubtedly have paid attention to the politics that are happening here. And man, it's been a brutal week for anybody that considers themselves progressive or human, I dare say. And, I'm not going to pontificate here because everybody has, spilled their guts in many different respects, whether it's podcasts or whether it's on social media. It's going to be a long 4 years. That's all I'm going to say. And, it's not because I am afraid to express my political opinions in any capacity. You can clearly read between the lines there, but, I don't need to contribute towards the, divisive nature, but trust me in saying the fact that I'm not happy about this, and there are many aspects of the political system, as it were, that I personally am not happy with, but that's neither here nor there. What is here is us continuing on, because realistically, we can only control what is in our own ecosystem, whether that's the choices, local communities, whether it's, the things that are touchable and are real to us. Even though obviously everybody contributes from a vote perspective, there are many things that are left on the table that you yourself can take control over. So I highly encourage you to focus your energies when you are ready towards that process, because those are where the changes that happen on a molecular level and then hopefully matriculate out to a larger ecosystem, as it were. So anyways, you can always reach out to the show, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. I love to get emails from any of you that are listening and have opinions on things, whether it's new music to check out, future guests, whatever the case may be. Inbox is open. You can also listen to all these podcasts on YouTube, because people obviously do that. Video is a thing. I wouldn't even say like a pivot to video. And I don't record these interviews on video, so it's a static image that I post on YouTube, but that's an easy way for people to get around corporate firewalls. I definitely have seen that where it's like, oh man, I can't listen to the podcast here because I can't access it on a web browser or whatever. It's like, well, YouTube is there for you. So you can consume all the podcasts and follow along with the show on YouTube. I will include a link in the show notes for you to follow along there. You can also leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps out tremendously. It's able to algorithmically make the show visible to those who need to see it. And then also leave a rating on Spotify if you are listening to it on your mobile device. It is a very easy way for you to support the show and not have to do anything financially, just completely free support. Those are the things that are meaningful to me. Also, my band is playing shows. Taken at the end of December, we are playing with 18 Visions, 2 shows here in Southern California where we are located. 18 Visions is celebrating Obsession, their 20-year anniversary on that. And we are actually celebrating our 20-year anniversary of the EP that we put out called Between Two Unseens. So we'll be playing that, not front to back, but we'll be playing all the songs that are contained on there. It's December 20th at the observatory or / the Constellation Room, which is the smaller room here in Costa Mesa, California. And if you are in the Los Angeles area, we are playing the midnight hour on the 21st of December. So tickets are available, even though I've been told that the Orange County Observatory / Constellation Room show is almost sold out. So if you want to come, say what's up and listen to loud music and celebrate 20-year-old songs, I welcome you to do that. And let's just go ahead and talk about our weekly recommendations. Those things that I've been putting in your ear over the course of this entire year. I continue to do so, and I'm going to highlight a particular record that I discovered, not recently, I've been listening to it over the past couple of weeks, but a past guest of the show, Ben Sharp from a band called Cloud Kicker. He is a very prolific musician, and he combined forces with, I don't know who from Gospel, but Gospel was a great band, put out a few releases on Level Plane, and I don't think they actually did anything else, but Gospel was a weird sort of like screamo progressive rock / instrumental band. But anyways, this project is called the Super Void Choral Ensemble. The Super Void Choral Ensemble. The record is called Life from the Downwen Terminus. I have never said those words out loud, but it is a perfect distillation and combo of Cloud Kicker and Gospel. It's all instrumental, like heavy, melodic, metalish. It's so good. If you like either of those bands, or if any of those words that I'm spitting at you right now sound slightly interesting, go dip in the show notes. I will put a link there for you to check out this record and all of the other records on a Spotify playlist. And that way it's, and when I say all the other records, it's all the other recommendations I've put towards you. The Super Void Choral Ensemble only has one full length, but it's exceptional. Huge shout out to Ben. Really proud of the musical output that you have done over the past, 10 years or so. I'm just a huge fan. So, and I've interviewed Ben for previous episodes of this show. So check that out as well. But yeah, link in the show notes. You'll be able to listen to this record and all of the other weekly recommendations that I have put for us. So anyways, here is Jordan Buckley from Better Lovers. This is a long one. Strap in, because Jordan was ready to chat. And I loved it. It's so much fun. So here we go. Here's Jordan from Better Lovers.
I first was exposed to you via us being label mates at one point, both putting out records on Goodfellow. Mm-hmm. And I remember Logan sending me the Burial Plot Bidding War EP. I think I actually still have you guys did those really cool limited edition ones with like the wax seal and like the little picture of so cool. But anyways, I just remember being impressed with that. I was like, this is really cool. But then when I saw you guys for the first time, which I can't pretend to tell you when the first time I saw you, but one thing I've always admired about you as a person in the way that you approach, I would say, most things in life, where you really throw yourself into it, where it's just like you show, especially from a live performance, like, you show no regard to your body or your neck or anything that you're doing. And it's been consistent basically the entire, 15 plus years that I've watched you play in a variety of different bands. Now, obviously, being a human of an older age, I know that doesn't necessarily change, but there's probably a little more mindfulness attached to it. Or maybe maybe that's not the case at all. So anyways, a long-winded way of me asking you, is that just basically the state of mind that exists for you when you start playing music?
Yeah. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse to not be able to do anything half-assed, and to kind of be, I just don't know how to not be 100% into what I'm doing, whether it's music, art, even, relationships, just being a dad, I can't figure out a way to do things quickly and easily. And, it gets me most in trouble in the art world, actually, because people will be like, oh, I want to hire you to do this quick thing, or do this small thing, or just, oh, this won't take, it should only take like an hour. And it's just like, motherfucker, I can't remember the last time I drew something that didn't take me, 4 weeks to finish. And yeah, I get it, that parallels over into music where, for like a second when the new band got started, I was just like, maybe I'll just switch it up and be like, stand still, stare at my feet, dude. And that idea lasted about like 4 minutes, and I was just like, oh no, I'm here. I'm literally walking in circles again. I just don't know how to contain this infinite amount of energy I seem to be able to pull from. And so I just kind of lean into it, and I go, I'm very lucky to be 42 and, looking like I'm not, I guess is the best way to put it, on stage, which I'm fine with, because it could look silly. You could look up at a 42-year-old and be like, what the fuck is this guy jumping around for? But it's like, I think at this point it would take me more energy to stand still. I'm a yoga guy, and that helps obviously with the recovery and with the mobility. But they say in class, at the end, you just lay down and you lay still. And they say, this is the hardest pose that people have. And it makes sense. Sometimes just doing absolutely nothing is so much harder than filling my time with ways to release the beast inside of me.
Sure. No, and it's funny. I made the connection obviously with your art, because your art has never been anything but, busy. And I mean that in a kind way, where, I could
Right. Thank you.
I can imagine where it's just like, because of that level of intensity, has it been often shared with you where it's just like, Jordan, like, calm down. Like, do you need to be an 11 the whole time? And it's like, well, yeah, I do.
Let me think. On stage, not
Sure.
really, because it's just the kind of music that I've always been playing. But definitely in the art world where I'm like, okay, wait, let me make a change. Wait, let me make a change. Wait, it's not done. Wait a minute, it's not done. And if it's for a client, they're just like, it was done a week ago. What are you doing? Chill out. Or, sometimes I'll just have to tell myself that. My iPad gets me in trouble the most, because you can zoom in so much and spend like an entire hour detailing something that you zoom out and you're like, fuck, no one will even see that. God darn it. But it's just something that you just have to, you use the word mindful, and so I'll use that word too. You just have to be mindful of, oh, it's okay. You can stop now. It's enough. But I've always, early on, when I was walking off stage from an Every Time I Die show, I felt bad anytime I had anything left. Like, if I had anything left in the tank walking off of a show, I don't care if it was a half hour, I don't care if it, like a Warped Tour half hour, or an opening half hour, or a headlining 90 minutes. I didn't enjoy walking off stage with energy. It was, I don't really know how to describe the feeling, but it was just a feeling I didn't like, almost like I didn't give it I literally didn't give it my all, because here I am breathing properly and not soaking wet. And so I just kind of enjoyed, the cliche is you can control only what you can control. And so sometimes there's so many factors in a show. Will the sound be good? Will the equipment be good? Will the equipment work? Will everyone else in the band sound good? Will the crowd be energetic? Will, everything from, will the lights be cool, to how many people will come, to, did we, sell enough t-shirts to fill the gas tank tonight, and so I just kind of went, there's so many things that you can't control. One of the things I can is how much I lay on the line out there on stage. And so I'm going to make sure it's everything, every show.
And
thank you for noticing, though, by the way,
course.
because that, I'm not going to lie. If it all went over people's heads, or if it was for nothing, I think I might reconsider. But the fact that, people, they don't, stand and stare. It's this reciprocated. They get my energy. I get their energy. That's another thing too, is like a lot of the times it doesn't come from me. It does come from the crowd. It does come from the music. And so you're just kind of falling in line with that wavelength.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And I think the reason that and I'm sure because obviously you've experienced, just as much music and watching bands live, there does, especially at a certain point, there gets that performative nature where it's like, obviously like the full body headbang has to be done by a band member or whatever. And it's like, there are certain ones where you just kind of watch people going through the motions where you're like, yeah, they feel it, but like, do they really feel it? Like, I'm not sure. And so it's like, but there are certain people that, seem intentionally possessed, and you've struck me as a person. As a person who it's like I'm aware of my surroundings. Like, I'm not just like throwing my guitar into the drums and like, being just like a complete idiot. You're like, I know my space, but I don't really know what I'm doing up here.
Oh yeah. It's not, and anytime I kind of feel like it gets a little too choreographed is the wrong word, but I try to keep it, I think I've just been around bands that maybe were a little too choreographed, and that's kind of like I learn what I don't like more than I learn what I do like. And so I just, you never want to go out there with a plan. Or I mean, yes and no. I'm kind of correcting myself as I'm talking here. I mean, you do want to, you want to entertain, and you don't want to make sure you're taking people's time and money and energy and saying thanks for nothing, thanks, bye, see you next time. You actually want to have the interaction. You want to have the connection. You want to make people go, oh my God, I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know, it almost like a date. Like there was a danger to hardcore shows when I first started going to them. Converge and American Nightmare and Coalesce. It felt dangerous. And you didn't know if you were going to get jumped on or if you were going to get something thrown at you. And it was thrilling. You didn't know if I've seen Wes from American Nightmare fight security guards mid-song. I've seen, Coalesce throw drums at people. So, and I'm not saying, I'm advocating violence by any means, but I am advocating for the thrill that comes with not knowing what you're going to get when you see a Better Lovers show, or in the past at every time at that show.
No, absolutely. And reflecting on you as a person, I know obviously the Buffalo area has been home. I know you obviously don't live there anymore. Was this you as a kid? Have you, as far as the the energy and the output, has that always been relatively consistent? Were you that kid bouncing off the walls, like playing sports, running around, or was that something that you grew up?
I think I did play sports, so you don't really. When you're a kid, I think all kids have this amount of energy, and I think I've just done a good job of harnessing it. I think if you really want to dig into the spiritual aspect of it, I think that there is an infinite amount of energy that you can tap into. And I think as you grow up, you kind of bury it. You kind of turn the if you think of it like a fire hose, you kind of just turn it down little by little as you grow up until it's just kind of it went from a fire hose to the garden hose. Now it's just kind of faucet. Now by the time you get too old, you're lucky if it's dripping at all. And so I think I've just done a good job of not letting that flow of energy die. So when I was a kid, I found hardcore at like 12 was my first hardcore show, and you didn't really question it. You're just like, this is where I belong. And it wasn't necessarily like okay, now I have somewhere to put my energy. Because I wasn't really a bouncing off the wall kid. I was, sports, playground. I was fucking addicted to the swing set. I loved just swinging on the swings. And so it didn't really strike me as like And it didn't really strike my parents as like, what are we going to do with this rambunctious toddler? It was just a natural from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And so, yeah, I guess I was lucky to find, punk music and hardcore music. And it just seemed like, okay, this is the natural next step. This is where I'm going to be exerting a lot of my energy because I wasn't, into sports so much that I thought about it professionally. It was just very natural. And and if I didn't find it at a young age, we would probably be having a very different conversation. I didn't put it into drugs and drinking. And when I was a teen, I didn't put it into getting in trouble. I was a pretty good kid. And I like to repeat myself. I got lucky and I found hardcore at a young age, and that's just where it went.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, so many people can articulate that value that they get in regards to everything you're speaking about, the energy at the shows, the community, like the list goes on and on.
Mhm.
But then to your point, just the ability to be like, I can, my energy is just so focused on this. I don't have time for, sometimes school, drugs, alcohol. You're like, I don't even have any, I got to care about the very distro catalog, like what's coming out in Victory Records next. Like you pay such close attention to it. There's nothing else that you can write.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I the catalogs, I would just, this is pre-internet. I would just read the descriptions of every band and every release. And I would read every thank you list in every CD booklet. And I would read every lyric. I knew who engineers were and who produced records were, almost like people memorize like sports facts. I knew who Steve, I feel like I manifested Steve Evans in my life because it's like I read his name on so many of my favorite albums that it was just only a matter of time before, we were in the same room together.
Let's get excited about our friends at evilgreed.net. They are an amazing, amazing collection of record labels and bands, web stores that will give you everything you possibly want, whether it's vinyl, whether it's t-shirts, whether it's, accoutrements, a coffee mug. I'm exaggerating, but you get it. But what Evil Greed does that's special, they have a curated list. Like they're not just throwing the doors open to any and all bands. They are primarily working in the heavy music, heavy/artistic, punk, metal adjacent world. If you like this show, I can guarantee you will love their offerings. They're based in Berlin, Germany, but they ship it to us in the United States for a very cost-effective way. For one, the fact the exchange rate is in our favor, so the shipping is not out of control. And then plus, you can buy so much stuff from them because I can guarantee you that 90% of the bands that are featured on this show are also on evilgreed.net. So go to that website, go shopping, and you're supporting a rad independent business run by punk and hardcore kids. You can't lose in this scenario because you get great material, whether it's, the newest Counterparts release that's on pre-order, or whether it's like, I want to get a Blood Incantation long sleeve, or how about I'm going to pick up a Brutus shirt because, geez, man, that band is so good. So anyways, go to evilgreed.net, browse around, and tell them we sent you.
With I know, connecting your art with your early interests. I know comics were obviously a big thing for you. What were sort of your entry points to, comics? Like, were you just obviously buying them at the grocery store or a bookstore? And like, what were your titles that you were super into?
This kind of just goes to show my love of illustration. I barely even read them. I would just look at them and I would just bounce from, oh, this drawing reminds me of this one. Oh, this one, and then I'd go get that. And this reminds me of that. And so I was like reading them, quote unquote, reading them out of order, and not even by the same title because I would fall in love with artists, I got into, I was on a camping trip and it was a grocery store and I was just bored because it was like, your family camping trip. And I got an X-Men at the grocery store, and I just spent 7 days just studying every single square. And eventually, I think what really changed me I found Image Comics, and so I just loved everything. They were like the anti-established. They were like the hardcore version of comic books, because they weren't Marvel, they weren't DC, but Mac and Spawn and who were Savage Dragon, and I mean, Rob Liefeld was just. I looked at these covers like they were like paintings in a gallery. I absolutely just fascinated and just I could not get enough. But then I got into Punisher. I don't know why. I think it was because of again, I just kind of bounced around and followed the same artists. And so there were, I was a big Punisher fan. But mostly anything Todd McFarlane did. And then, it just burnt. It's like, oh, okay. I followed Image like the same way we would follow like Trustkill and Ferret. We would just be like, okay, whatever they're putting out is good. So I have to get that. So I would just go, okay, what is it? And then you get some dog shit and you're just like, all right, well, I guess just like, I'm not going to call out any bands, but every once in a while, Ferret or Trustkill would put out some dog shit. And so there was parallels between comic books and hardcore collecting that I felt like, okay, you get this umbrella, you get the Image Comics umbrella, and you're pretty, that they know what you like. It was almost like the original algorithm, like Image knew what I liked, and these certain what the hell is, I'm drawing a blank on what record label was like Drowning Man on Hydra Head. Oh my god, I can't believe I couldn't think of that. Like Hydra Head was like my original music algorithm. It was like, okay, these guys know exactly what I like, and it's got a Hydra Head. Okay, I'm buying it. I'm gonna like it. It was that easy.
Well, yeah. And I love that too. The comparisons that lie within, comic books, like basically any subculture that you can be obsessed with, where you start to, like you said, spiral, dig deeper, and then be like, dude, I'm going to follow anything Dark Horse Comics does, or then, you start to ping pong. And then that, I do think that, to your point, that obsessive nature that is really connected to people that are, lifers. Like, it isn't something that people just like, kind of scratch the surface on and then stay connected to it for 20 plus years. They usually move on like most normal people.
My ADD just kicked in, and I remember I didn't say Pit.
Oh, yes.
Pit. Do you remember Pit?
Yes.
The comp? Yeah. So, but yeah, sorry.
No, you're totally fine. So as you were, developing an identity, obviously, going to high school, playing in bands and stuff like that. Was there a conception, like when you first started to go to shows, that you wanted to play in a band, or did that, kind of reveal itself slowly as you, started to figure things out with your brother?
No, it was, I played guitar. I wanted to play guitar even before that. Like, my dad had guitars laying around the house. And so I already went into hardcore knowing, and I kind of like, I don't know where I heard this rumor, but like when I was young, I was like, oh, I can't learn guitar yet. My fingers aren't big enough yet. Like, I haven't grown yet. I have to wait until my fingers are bigger. And so I just kind of, from a very, very, very early age, I was like, I'm going to play guitar one day. I just have to wait till my fingers are bigger. And so I discovered hardcore, and I was like, I think my fingers are big enough. I got to fucking see if my dad can let me learn a couple songs. So a childhood friend from down the road he was a couple years older. And so he taught me some Rage Against the Machine songs and some Nirvana songs and some Green Day songs. And that was it. So I went into hardcore fully aware that I was going to be on stage, as soon as possible.
Got it. And when you started, because from the moment that obviously Every Time I Die started to, get out there and, start to gig in Oakville, Ontario. I think that's actually where I first saw you guys, but as you started to tour and kind of develop that, muscle, this is a question I'm obviously asking now in sort of retrospect. what did you learn about yourself as you started to, tour, experience the world? Or, was it such a blur that it was difficult to kind of like learn anything in the moment? It isn't until now you can look back on it and, speak to it.
No, I didn't necessarily try to over grandize what was happening at the time and put it into like a theoretical, put a bow on it and say, this is my thesis on life. But I did know I was doing something that I loved doing, that I would miss doing when I wasn't doing it, that a lot of people wish they could be doing. It was almost a reaction to I was, and I still am. I'm extremely emotional in all emotions. I feel all emotions very intensely, the good ones and the bad ones. And I hated when things ended. I felt so sad. Even to the point where I feel like I've talked about this in interviews before. I was the kid that was sad Christmas night because Christmas was over. I was sad the night of my birthday because my birthday was over. When summer vacation was over, I was almost inconsolable. And it didn't, I think it might have been in my late 30s when I finally realized that the real solution to that is to accept that everything changes at all times and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, and change is good, and there's no way to fight it. That's the real solution to the problem. But the temporary solution to my problem was just to go, okay, well, if I'm going to be sad when this is over, then I might as well be really happy when it's going on. And so I just loved it. I loved it. I loved traveling. I loved hanging out. I loved being with my friends. I loved watching bands. And anytime I would kind of get caught up in the homesickness of it, I would just kind of remind myself, you are going to miss this once it's gone. Not just permanently, you're going to miss this the day after it's gone. You're going to miss this as you're driving home from the last show. So that's inevitable. That's been a problem of mine for my entire life since I was crying when I was leaving Cedar Point every vacation. It was just like, you know what, it's going to suck when it's over. And the only thing we've figured out yet is to just almost to kind of circle back to what I was talking about as far as the live show. If it's going to be a bummer when it's over, at least I don't want to have a regret. I don't want to look back and say, I could have had more fun. I could have been happier. I could have done this. I could have done that. So if you're going to be sad, at least be sad without regrets is the kind of way I looked at experiencing it. And it just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And so I never had to think about like, okay, looking back, here's my final thought, do you remember the Jerry Springer show when he would do his final thoughts? Like I never had to have one because we just kept going on tour and kept writing music and kept going on tour and kept getting, kind of kept getting bigger. And even when it plateaued at a place that we loved. It was like, okay, we love how big we are right now. Yeah, we're not an arena band, or we're not, on, growing up, you cared more about being on radio or being on TV. Obviously, that's not the case these days. But we got to a place where we were just so grateful to be exactly where we were, and we didn't even really care about getting bigger. At least I didn't. And so it was just enjoyable. And I was like, okay, I'll do my Jerry Springer final thought one day, but it doesn't have to be today.
Right. And with that topic too, I know obviously it was permissive enough for your parents to be like, okay, clearly, like Jordan and Keith are, I guess, are touring with a really weird band and what have you. And like were those conversations as you started to, take the band more seriously and not, pursue normal life stuff? They obviously allowed it because you were an adult at the time. But, was there sort of a touch and go of like, oh man, Jordan, who knows what the hell he's going to do?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, we started going out of town when I was still in high school. And so, we had to we got a show on a Friday night in Chicago. It's like, okay, I gotta talk my parents into letting me miss school. And it goes as awkwardly and difficult as I don't really know, man. You grow up in your family and you think that your family is the most normal thing in the world, and then everyone's family is different. So I feel like telling my parents I need to miss school on Friday so that I could go play a show in Chicago. They weren't like, you hear about some parents where they're like, fuck yeah, we'll drive. Like these parents that like want their kids to be fucking stars. So they drive their kids all across the country to auditions and shit. It wasn't like that. It was just like, I promise I'll finish my homework. I promise I will make up anything I missed. I promise this won't be, a weekly thing. And let's just try to do it. Can I do it this once? And then we'll see if it works. And then it did it once and it was like, okay, it worked. Maybe can I do that again this time? And then once we got to the college thing, it was more like now it's my decision. Now, I am going to be missing this. I am going to be, and that's when things started suffering. And that's when it goes into, what I'd mentioned early in the conversation about how I can't really do anything half-assed. And I had to leave college because I was majoring in illustration, and we couldn't do all the shows because, I had college and people had jobs and stuff. But at the same time, I also wasn't handing in my best projects and illustrations and artwork because I couldn't work on them Friday, Saturday, or Sunday because the band was playing shows. And so, I think about 2 years in, I hit that wall of like, I can't do two things half-assed anymore. I gotta pick one and do it whole-assed. And it was the band. I picked the band. And then I said, I'll come back to art. And I did. Because that is something that you can kind of do on more of your own time if it's a hobby or if you're working for yourself. Whereas the band, you got a lot of people depending on you. You got band members depending on you. You got promoters. You got people buying tickets. You got not just I'll do this when I feel like it kind of thing. So I think I'm glad I made that decision. Looking back, I after the breakup, I was like, I wish I could go back and just fucking do anything but be in this band. This was the wrong decision. I don't give a shit. It was so depressing and so miserable. And I was at such a bottom after the band broke up that I truly, truly, truly wished I was never, and every time I die, I wish I never left college. I wish I stayed with art. But, flash forward a year or two, and here I am saying, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, which I was going to bring that up in a little bit in regard, because nothing is more fun than talking about your lowest moments of your life.
Eventually, I know you're being sarcastic, but that is the finish line to me. When you can talk about something, when you can joke about something, when you can be open about something, that means it has no power over you anymore. And so, to kind of be devil's advocate of what you said, actually, it is. A year ago, I would have been like, just don't even, please don't. I mean, I used about a year or two ago, I was very selective about what podcasts, what interviews with press I did, just because I was so afraid of things being brought up that I didn't want to talk about. But at this point, it's like, fuck, it's like, I feel like, I get a lot of inspiration from stand-up comedians, and just the ways that they can just get up and joke about how fucked up their lives are. And so, that got me out of my slump, and the 2022 slump of like, okay, there will be a day when I can joke about this. There will be a day when I can talk about this. There will be a day when, I laugh about this and I don't fucking curl up into a ball, just want to just go away, forever. I mean, there was like, I never I've never been suicidal. I'm getting so dark.
It's completely fine.
Uh, but I do have I consider it a great relationship with death, and I will sometimes, even to this day, I'll still just be like, I think this is enough. I think it's just I've done enough. I've accomplished enough. I've created a lot of nice artwork for people to look at. I've created some nice music for people to listen to. I think I'm ready to hit the reset button and start on my next life. But obviously I have a kid, and I would never do that. And he always keeps me grounded in the here and now. And so yeah, during that time, it was weird. I was like, kind of like, did you ever watch Lost?
I did, yes.
Okay, so remember when Jack gets back from the island, and then he kind of misses the island that so much he starts like going on plane rides, just kind of hoping he crashes.
Totally. It's it's like a mixture of survivor's guilt and then also just like, I need that.
Yeah.
I need that jolt.
Right. I caught myself, and that's how I knew it was real. That's how I knew it wasn't like me trying to be funny. Like there were times where I would be on a plane and it would get shaky, and I would get excited. I'd be like, oh, maybe this is, or like, this sounds so fucked up. When I would be in traffic, and you ever get to like, you see an accident like before the paramedics get there or before the police get there or anything. And there are a couple times that happened, and I would get excited. I'd be like, oh, maybe this is such a fucked up thought, but fuck it. It's the thought I had. I would go, maybe I could like save someone's life, and it would be okay if I died saving someone's life, because, it would be, I'd die it's more dignified than suicide. And I'm not committing suicide, but I still have this I can't get out of this depression. I can't find happiness in things that make me happy. The things that used to make me happy should make me happy, and now they're not. So that's just adding to the depression, because the happy things aren't happy anymore. I was like, I just need to die some sort of heroic way so that I can just get started on the next life. And that was a fucking dark time, but I'm out of.
Rockabilia.com is the place where you should point your web browser, because you will be able to browse over 500,000 items that are on sale. And on top of that, I'm giving you 10% off of your entire order by using the promo code 100 words or less. That's the number 100 words or less, 10% off the whole order. It's all officially licensed stuff. And I don't care what genre you're into. Say you're a big classic rock head. Boom, they got you covered. Your Zeppelins, your Nirvanas, because Nirvana's classic rock now, guys. I'm sorry to break it to you. But you could also buy, the latest and greatest from your favorite metal bands, where you're like, you know what? I need an Immolation long sleeve. Or how about a Cannibal Corpse shirt? All of this stuff you can purchase from there. And what makes it great is that it ships from the Midwest here in the United States of America, so it gets to you in a very quick manner. And you're supporting an independent business that's been operating for over 30 years. So that means they know what they're doing. And again, it's all officially licensed. That means the bands get paid. None of this bootleg stuff where, the stuff may look cool, but the band is not seeing a dime for that. And, that doesn't feel good. Trust me, I've bought bootlegs and I've been like, oh man, I feel bad doing this, but maybe they just don't have a good design. Regardless, rockabilia.com has you covered, and then use the promo code 100 words or less for 10% off of your entire order.
Going out like a hero could just be like, oh yeah, that's the button on my life. And that's not a bad way to go.
Right. And then like, if the only thing keeping me going was my kid, or like in this like idea of restarting a new band. And I was like, oh, my kid can like say his dad died a hero. Like this will be okay. And so I would fucking be like mindful and aware of like disasters that I could like put myself in. It was fucking weird. And it's really weird to talk about now, but it's true.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
As I crack a bubbly.
I think it's a lot of what you're speaking about is that transition point that most people come to, especially when they're connected to, a band, artwork, like whatever it is. The moment that you're sort of transitioning out of the thing that you were doing for such a long period of time, you're going to go through the identity crisis, lows, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's, truthfully, to your point, how you get out of it, whether it is starting something new, doing something that excites you again, rather than just like, sitting in your depression or whatever it is that you're going through. And truthfully, it does get to a point where you're speaking about that you don't want to be like, starting Better Lovers. It is so easy to just like fall into the land of cliches where it's just like, oh, here's this super band and what but the way that you were displaying it was like the general enthusiasm of like the fact that none of these guys, besides obviously the people you played with in Every Time I Die, should have really been able to make this work. But hey, we got in the same room and it did, and it seems to be working still. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and there was no choice but it to be that way because of my life circumstances. And that by that I'm referring to the fact that I have been on tour since I was 18 years old. And so when I'm starting a new band, I'm 40. And, I'm obviously going to do it with Steve and Guth, and Andy went full time with the wrestling, so we couldn't. And then Will kind of made it known that he wanted to be in the band. And as far as vocals go, it's like, of course it's going to be someone in a band because I don't know, I'm 40. I don't know anybody with a great voice who writes great lyrics that can scream well that isn't in a band. I think it's weird if any 40-year-old was just like, oh, I got this neighbor who's great at screaming and singing, and he's 42, and he's just, it's not like we were hanging out at karaoke bars auditioning singers. So it's like, obviously we had to look for someone who was in a band, and then that's obviously going to make people say it's a super group. So it was just unavoidable. Aside from like just sitting outside on a curb, feeling sorry for myself, and then all of a sudden just hearing some guy with a beautiful voice walking down the street, like that miracle wasn't going to happen. But the fact that I have 100 vocalists' phone numbers in my phone, that's more likely. So that was just the natural way to go about it. And I think I cared about the term supergroup for like a week. And then I was just like, you know what? We're a group. We're fucking super. Call it whatever the fuck you want. I don't even care.
I can't control that. Yeah. So, something that I also, has been very consistent in who you are as a human, where not only portrayed in Every Time I Die as far as your sense of humor, like you've always been clearly, a total goofball, tongue firmly implanted in your cheek, like serious about the music, but not taking yourself so seriously. Yeah.
Thank you.
Was that kind of like always who you were, just kind of like, the goofball, so to speak, or was that something that was easy to go into?
No. It was when I was around my friends growing up, and I was never really like a goofball in school because when the teachers weren't around, yeah. But again, I was never really a goofball at home. When you have a disabled sister, and if anyone's listening and didn't know, I grew up with a disabled sister, and anyone with a disabled sibling cannot, as an adult, say that they had a normal family life. That they need extra care, they need extra attention, they need extra medical attention. It adds stress, but it's wonderful, and you would never trade it for the world. But the very least is that it's not a normal setting. And so I think that I never really, I was just kind of like a shy kid, because I never really wanted to rock the boat, because my sister deservingly needed and got more attention. And so I, was the middle child. And so it was, even a middle child without a disabled sibling is known for just fucking, aren't we? Isn't it cliche that like middle children don't get good attention?
Yeah, no,
anyway,
totally.
Yeah. So, and then you add to that my younger sister was disabled, and I didn't want it. I was just like, I don't want attention. She needs it so much more. I'm not going to try to steal it from so the fact that I was kind of like a people pleasing non-boat rocker as a kid, I guess it just felt good to meet up with friends and be goofballs. And I was always just goofy with friends. I never had like the dramatic friend group. I never got into drama. I never got into gossip. I never got it. That was never my scene or arguing with friends and friends. I see, even to this day, you see friends that seem more like enemies than friends. And that was just never, it was just always about goofing off. And maybe that's because home was a little bit stressful, that I really, really needed an outlet for my silliness, and it made me appreciate it when I did have it, because it wasn't there 24 hours a day. Then you just you get in the band and you're 16 and you are on the road and you're free for the first time in your life, and you're like, wow, being fucking silly all day long is just as fun as I thought it would be. And it's a shame that people feel bad about being happy and feel bad about being goofy and acting childlike, and feeling like when you grow up you have to stop. And I mean, especially with the pandemic and with all the social injustices that were on full display over these last 5 years, it almost made people, I think, feel bad for being happy. And so maybe that's why I was extra depressed during the band breakup and the COVID and the pandemic, is because I really needed that silliness in my life, and it got shut off for a couple of years on everybody. Like you couldn't crack a joke online because it was just like, really now. It's like, oh fuck, dude, the world is just such a tense place, and I just thrive. That's why when that was going on, when these last couple of years, I kind of just stayed quiet, because it was like, I'm not going to pretend like I understand the seriousness of everything that's going on in this world. I'm just going to learn, and I'm going to observe. And that's, I hope I'm not going too off topic, but that's what I always hated about being in a band the most, is when people would come to us for like the to solve these world problems. Like, people were coming up to us and asking us what to do about COVID. They're like, okay, shows are going to get, what should we do? Do we wear a mask? Do we, and then we're putting these shows where it's like, okay, we have outside testing. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, why are you fucking asking me? I know as little about this fucking shit as you do. And I'm so glad that we're past those moments where the seriousness of going to bands and asking them, I need you to think for me. I need you to tell me who to vote for. I need you to tell me what to do with my life. I'm so glad that I'm on the other side of that, because that was probably one of my least enjoyable moments of being in the band, was when a band member couldn't feel like he could say, I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know what to do. I'm just a fucking goofball. I put out a DVD with me lighting my hair on fire fucking 15 years ago, and it got more attention than any song I've ever fucking written. Why are you asking me for medical advice? So yeah, it I guess, to put a bow on your question, I love that this is the real me. The real me is just wants to smile and laugh. And but there are times when it's fucking, when people don't want it. You know what I mean? So it's a blessing and a curse too. So that is the very long-winded answer of, yes, I am a fucking really fucking asshole. And sometimes it's the best thing in the world, and sometimes I wish I knew how to turn it off.
For sure. No, and I appreciate that thought process of walking through that, because there is, it is a landmine field that you walk out on when you do, especially too, where it's like, it would be, in my mind, it would be a much different story if every time I die, commented on, just whatever the ethics of hardcore, but not to the extent where it was like you guys would ever be identified as a political band. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different story where it's like, and I'm sure you've seen this, where I find it so comical when people, are commenting on Rage Against the Machine or Rise Against and being like, man, I like you guys' music, but I don't know about your politics. It's like, what are you, like, they make that very clear who they are. How are you confused?
Right. But also, Tom Morello had a degree in political science. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying, yes, there are some musicians who excel in a more serious medical background or political background or social background. I was put on this planet for more of the art. I think I think that's what pushes society. Honestly, I do. I think that the arts and the music is what stimulate the human revolution. A lot of people want to get patted on the back for tweeting, the most obvious, whatever bullet point that in regards to what's happening in the news that day, because they feel good about collecting the likes. But I think it's more. I think we're going to be. I think we're better off as a society. I think we're better off as a culture if you get that human individual one by one looking at yourself and figuring out yourself and how you can help the society around you versus being told what to do or telling other people what to do. And I think in a roundabout way, art and music is a good way to do that. It makes you think because it stimulates new ideas. And so instead of regurgitating what the singer of your favorite band is telling you on Twitter, you're now saying, okay, well, this makes me think, and I had my own thought, and maybe I should start listening to different singers or other singers or reading this book or looking at this painting or this comic book, because even comic books have a strong comment on the world around us, and so that's where I feel like I fit into the world. I use that term loosely because I still don't know where I fit in, and I don't think I fit in, but I think I have a job to make people happy with what I do, because I feel like when people are happy, they're better at being themselves. And I don't think there's anything better for this planet than everyone being themselves.
Sure, totally. The something that struck me in regards to Better Lovers, with the fact that, like you were saying, like the contacting Greg and contacting other people to be like, hey, let's do something together, and you guys obviously all come from different bands that have, different points of view, obviously all under the context of, metal and hardcore stuff. So there is a common thread, but the idea that there was, a sort of like, hey, this is the way that we did this in Every Time I Die versus this is the way that, Will did this in Fit for an Autopsy and everything he's touched from a recording perspective. Was it not difficult to navigate, because clearly you did, and you came out with creative stuff, but like, was it kind of, you guys getting a feel for each other and like who should take the lead on certain parts and like who should, sit back and like that sort of, working out how you can be creative together? Or was it pretty seamless?
It was seamless in the fact that we've written with Will before. He did the last two Every Time I Die records. And so, it wasn't a new experience in that regard. Me, Steve, and Goose wrote 4 songs, which would eventually be the God Made Me an Animal EP. And we took them to Will, and Will did what Will does. He makes them better. At any time I could put it online and show people, here's what it sounds like before Will. Here's what it sounds like after Will. And no one will ever disagree that it sounds better after Will There, and so that was very comfortable in the fact that we had already had so much experience together. At first though, then, once Andy kind of told us that he couldn't do it, I just fucking dug deep, and I said, there's no way this band isn't happening. And if I gotta, double the workload, there was a minute where I'm like, is this 4-piece? Like, am I gonna have to is that what this is? Like, am I gonna have to figure out how to use the delay and a fucking looper and play 2 parts at once? Like, is that what's going on here? I mean, we thought of every idea, because not doing the band was not an option. We thought of putting out an instrumental album. We thought of having a different singer for every song. And I mean, this was before Will. This was early stages, before we had a name, before we had Will, before we had Greg, where we're just like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And you take the driver's seat and you grab the wheel and you really grip it really fucking tight. And as time went on, and not even a lot of time, just once I realized that Will was committed, I just had so much faith in loosening up on my grip of the steering wheel, to the point where his songs, quote unquote songs, are on the new record are the greatest things ever. I mean, the reverse can be said about me. He will take songs and bring them to me and go, what do you think we should do? And my answer will be, play this live. Like, this doesn't need anything. This is perfect. And so it's so nice to not have to be a control freak, because I'm really not. I really do enjoy I get all the control freakness out of me in my art. My art is I've always done it myself. I mean, I was selling my own t-shirts. I pack my own orders. I ship my own posters. I was always just a one-man army when it came to the art. And so it's so nice to have that yin and yang of, I'm a part of a team. And there's no way that not letting Will and Greg come in with their ideas, there's no way it's not going to make it better. Damn it, I forget what the term is, but I just saw it on some basketball documentary. But you need a team to excel in certain things. This would not be a better band if it was just only me writing. Will is amazing, absolutely amazing in everything he does. Greg is one of one. Yeah, there's times where I'll kind of hear vocal ideas while I'm writing music, and then I don't even bring them to Greg, because I know he's going to do something 1,000 times better. So it was welcome. The answer to the question is, it was very, very welcome to have them come in. And I mean, think about it. They're the best of it. I'd be a fucking asshole, dumbass, if I said, no, Will Putney and Greg Picciotto, I don't need your help. Like, fucking fuck off. Of course, it's an honor. It is an honor. It's Michael Jordan passing you a basketball and you being like, how about you take the shot and pass it back? So it was welcome, and I couldn't be in a better spot. And then with me and Goose and Steve, I mean, I didn't even mention them, because they're just so attached to me that when I talk about my writing, I mean me and Steve and Goose, and me bringing ideas to them and them making them better. Steve making them better, Goose making them better. So I don't even feel like I write separate from them. Like, even when I'm sitting on my couch in Arizona writing, I feel like, okay, this is what Booth would do here. Okay, this is what Steve would do here. And if I'm wrong, then they'll do something better. I'm a spiritual guy, and I sit in front of a scroll called the Gohanzen, and I chant, and they tell you to ask for what you think you want, because you're either going to get that or you're going to get something better. And that is exactly how I feel when I write. I feel like there's no way Steve and Will and Greg are going to take something I wrote and make it worse. Like if that happens, like I will call you and we will have an emergency podcast, and I will say, for the first time ever, I brought an idea to Steve, Girth, Will, and Greg, and they made it worse. Like it's just not going to happen.
Totally. You're like, the baseline is it's going to be okay coming from me, but it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even like it's not even a question. It's a firm knowledge, like almost kind of where I won't cut corners. I won't just be like, hey, this is good enough, they'll make it better. Because I almost know that like the better I make it, the better they will make it.
Totally get that. And kind of on that same idea where the fact that, Better Lovers, like because you guys had already put, time in all of your respective bands and you have been involved for many years, there was clearly, a little bit of fast forwarding that you could do in regards to people paying attention to your project, et cetera, et cetera. The decision-making process in regards to like, okay, from, kind of day one, like we're going to have management and obviously an agent's going to be involved, all this stuff. Like the decision-making process is a little bit differently because you're older, wiser, et cetera, et cetera. How, because you were coming from this position, like how did that affect your decision-making process on, tours, labels you were going to work with, like all that sort of stuff?
Okay. It was, so are you playing? Okay. Is it your first or your second or third? Or?
No, it's my first. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I am divorced, and I believe that you just learn. Everything is a learning experience. And I know that, my second marriage, whenever it happens, will be so much better because of what I learned in the first one. And this band is just an example of how that relates to things other than marriage. It's you went in and you just from the get-go were just like, this didn't work in the last band, this did work. So we just knew, and we're of an age where we're firm in what we know, we believe in ourselves, and we said this is what we want. And we were we were very lucky, specifically when every time I was booking agent, Nick Stewart. I don't know.
Yeah, good old Nick Stewart.
Stewart. He said, he was there when through it all, and he said, "I'm going to do whatever you do next. I'm not going anywhere." Well, he told us this, the the days before the last Every Time I show. He said, "Whatever you do next, you count on me." And so that was really, really, really nice for him to have. And so that was great too. And so, and then there's just a lot of synchronicities, like our last manager, Jackie, she obviously got the fuck out of there, but she, worked for Sharp Tone. And so it was just like, oh, okay, well, this is just kind of lining up. We did talk to other record labels, but we're just like, kind of in the back of my head, I'm like, well, I definitely wouldn't mind going with a record label where our old manager works. It'd be nice. And then we did have a lot of talks with a lot of managers and a lot of great ones. And they were wonderful. Fly South, just great people. But at the end of the day, we went with our friend Tom because he was working at a management company called Tandem. He plays guitar in Straight from the Past, and he manages band with the guy Rich over at Tandem. And we went with him because, well, he was very passionate about it, and he just got us. And obviously touring with him literally for the majority of our careers. I mean, we did Straight from the Past tours, like it seems like every 2 years we were on tour with them. And he just did it. He had a great analogy. He was like, when a hockey team needs a hockey coach, who's better than someone who used to play hockey? And so that kind of put it into perspective of, maybe we do need a manager. Really, that was like the light bulb went off, and I was like, oh wow, that was a fucking nice analogy, Tom. You fucking won me with that one. And so since then, he has he moved companies, and now he's over at Gold Theory, and they manage Turnstile, Knock Loose. They got, why is my voice cracking today? What the fuck? So that worked out well for us. It was just a lot of really nice synchronicities. I'm a big guy, a big believer in just, when sometimes when you're presented with an opportunity, you just have to realize that it's the right one. And so between Nick Storch never leaving our side, between Jackie going from managing us to working at Sharptone, or, Tom, an old tour buddy who just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. Yeah, we got a great, absolutely fantastic team. And then you just, Will is just behind the scenes. He knows everything and everyone. Because if you think about it, he's produced so many records. So he knows every manager. He knows every record label. Because he was, being paid by them at some point to record one of their bands. And there's been a lot of times where things have just fallen into place so well that it just feels so meant to be. And you just feel so taken care of, and you feel like you're in the exact right place. And this band was just, it was very hard to get the wheels off the ground as far as our impatience was going. You go from touring 10 months out of the year for, a decade or two, then you get that taken away by the pandemic. Then you get it back for like 8 months after the pandemic, and then it gets taken away again. And so we were just like frosting. We were just like, can we just be in a fucking band that plays a show? And here we are, October 2024. We've been playing shows for a year and a half. We're coming up on like our 100th show. This is the first time we'll ever be playing a show that everyone knows every song. We've been playing, this full length comes out October 25th. There's songs on it. And you know this because you've been in a band. How weird is it that like a new song to someone is 2 years old to you, That's how we feel. We've been playing, and I just expanded on this in a podcast I did the other day, where bands aren't really playing unreleased songs anymore because they don't want them on YouTube. They don't want people's first impression of them to be like less than perfect. And we just decided, fuck it. That's just not who we are. You go on YouTube and you will hear, Greg was like working out lyrics and working out vocal every day live. So like there's a song on the record, you could probably go on YouTube and hear 20 different versions of it. And we think that's fucking cool as hell. And so it just adds to the eagerness. Like we're so fucking eager to get out there and scream in people's faces that we were playing songs that were just like, hey, you know what? I got a better idea. I'll try this tomorrow. Hey, I got a better idea. I'll try this tomorrow. Hey, I don't have an idea. It's almost like a stand-up comedian going up on stage and improvising. He wasn't improvising, but he was like, yo, I got this new thing I want to try tonight. Or like there would be times where like we would hear him do something that we never heard him do before and be like, yo, that was fucking sick. Keep that. So it's just been so fun, the whole process of trying to make this happen. And, Father Time has the little say in that too. We're not idiots. We know that the average age is 40 in this band. And so, we might not look like it when we're jumping around on stage, but we know very well that nothing lasts forever. And so we didn't want to take another year to perfect every song. And we didn't want to take another year to make sure when we go on tour, everybody knows every song. It's like, fuck it. Well, let's open up. Well, we were playing like 8-song headlining sets that were like clocking in at like 33 minutes. And like people were loving it. They're like, this is great. I get to get home at a reasonable hour. This is fucking awesome. So everything has just been falling into place. It's really awesome. Everything to this podcast right now. I mean, I'm enjoying the hell out of this conversation. And I wouldn't be having it if it wasn't for Better Lovers. So it's just another example of how life is just really treating me well right now.
That's spectacular. The last thing I want to hit on was the fact, I mean, I know like you've mentioned a few times in our conversation, the spiritual connection, and like whether that's come from, religion or whether that's just come from like you obviously searching when you were, trying to kind of piece your life back together. Where did that kind of come from? Had that always been sort of existing alongside of everything you were doing, where there was that connection of like, why am I here? That questioning, as it were.
Okay, so here's the story. I'll give it to you. In 2009, I got in late 20s. Looking back, not proud, but I got in a bar fight and I hurt a guy pretty bad, but he started the fight. A guy started a fight with my friend. First, my friend, I don't think I can, I think I could talk about it because it's all over. I can't get like arrested twice, whatever.
I think there's, I was going to say, there's a film about that. Ashley Judd and, yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's really good. So I injured the guy in the fight that he started. And, then it was like, okay, cops are coming, get the fuck out of there. The cops show up. One of the cops is the guy who started the fight, and he proceeds to say that my friend, the guy he attacked, actually was the one who started the fight. They only took like witness testimonies from their friends. My friend goes to jail. Meanwhile, he's like, yo, I didn't do anything. Like all I did was get attacked. And so you wake up the next morning and you're just like, fuck, this is rock bottom. Like I'm getting in fights at fucking open bars. My friend got arrested because they thought he was me, but the only reason I was in the fight was to protect him. And so it was this really fucking horrible year and a half where, I ended up having to go down and tell the cops, like eventually, because my lawyer's like, don't fucking do anything. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. It'll get thrown out. Don't do anything. It'll get thrown out. And it just never got thrown out because this fucking dude just kept trying press charges and trying to sue. And so eventually I had to go down and say, nope, you got the wrong guy. I'm the one who hit him. And then the guy fucking sued me for a shitload of fucking money. And it sucked. Point being, a lot of people find spirituality at their lowest point. And my ex-wife at the time, because you don't even know what to ask for. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to pray for. You don't know where to go when when someone tells you, hey, your friend might go to jail unless you go down there and maybe you go to jail for, it's a very, you got to do a lot of soul searching to figure out what the fuck you're going to do where you can just say, I'm just going to be a piece of shit and not care about my friend. Cause I got off the fucking, I'm not in any trouble. I could literally walk away from this and never look back. But you don't want your friend to go down for something you did, but at the same time, you only did it because you were sticking up for him. It was such a fucked up situation. I didn't have answers and I didn't know what to do. And my ex-wife was raised with her mother was a practicer of Nichiren Buddhism, and the emphasis is on chanting. And what the chanting does is if you're listening to this and you're interested, go Google Tina Turner on Larry King. She does it much. She explains it much more beautifully and elegantly than me. Her movie, even at the end of What's Love Got to Do with It, like the whole last half hour is about chanting and how it gave her the strength to fucking get out of the Ike Turner marriage. And long story short, it brings out your absolute highest self. It makes you your best version of you. And not only that, but the universe also starts to align with it and starts to help you and starts to give you help so that you can be your best version of yourself. It eradicates karma. It's the exact chant is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and you say that in front of the scroll. And then there's also another longer thing where you go, Myoho Renge Kyo Hobe Banai Niji Saju Sama Niki Go Hart to Shobuchi Jimuro Gochie Managi Nani Sexual. It's like 17 pages. It's long. And I discovered it at a very low point in my life, and I just cannot help how fucking amazing it makes me feel. I feel like it really does bring out my happiest self. I feel like it does bring out my strongest self. And even in the face of horrible things, like I might go to jail or I might get sued for $100,000 because this fucking dude says his eyeball is scratched. It makes you go, okay, I am cause and effect. All karma is cause and effect. And that's why, Buddhism, one of the I'm sure you've seen, it's very heavy with the lotus flower, and the lotus flower is one, it has to grow out of mud, meaning you have to have it in order to be a better person. You cannot be a great, strong, happy person without suffering, without shit. You need the mud. But two, it's also a flower. It seeds and it flowers at the same time, cause and effect. We are living our lives. Right now, I am living the effects of what I have done, and right now I am causing my future. So cause and effect, karma, it's all happening at the same time. And when I chant, I'm in regards to the lawsuit, I just wasn't afraid. It gave me the strength to get through my day. It gave me the strength to stand up and say, no, I did that. He did not do that. I did that. It gave me the strength to pay for my friends' lawyers, because it was the right thing to do, with money I, could have very well used, if I just decided to be a piece of shit and let my friend fucking struggle on his own. So yeah, chanting has just, and it's something I always kind of kept to myself because, I like to use the example of when I was in Every Time I Die, there were so many lyrics about drinking, but Andy Williams never drank. But people thought he did because he was in a band that sang about drinking a lot of times. And so, yeah. And so my relationship with spirituality and with a higher power, I felt like it was the same way. I was like, well, a lot of each lyrics are about, very atheist, very anti-God, but I disagree with, I'm not pushing this on anyone. I am just simply saying, this is what I do. This is what gets me through the day. If you can look at me and you could say, wow, that's a happy person. Maybe he's got a secret. Maybe he's onto something. Maybe his techniques, maybe his routines, maybe he knows something that we don't know. Maybe that can inspire you. And I think it inspires people more than if I were to say, you're fucking up your life. You need to do this. You're fucking, look at you. You fucking need to get down your fucking knees and fucking, no, it's not about punishment. It's about, just being open to how everyone has to kind of, I hate the word journey, but everyone's on their own journey. And so, to kind of relate back to the question you asked, I kind of kept it to myself only because, like, why not? I kept it to myself the same way Andy kept, like, not drinking to himself. If you ask him, he's gonna be like, nope, I don't drink. And there might be some people who are like, I refuse to believe that because you're in Every Time I Die. I would get fucking messages that are like, oh, this new fucking Every Time I Die record makes me want to fucking punch God in the face. And it's like, no, that's not really my thing, but if that's your thing, then fucking fine. And so that's kind of why I've never been like, I've never preached about it. That's why I've never really, been a spokesperson for it. But if you want to talk about it, I'd fucking love to talk about it because it's helped me. And, I kind of rediscovered it during the pandemic. And, I cannot say enough good things about it. It's a practice that I love. Do you know the Riggs the Dad podcast?
Yep.
Yes, he does it too. And so there's every once in a while I'll sprinkle it out there and I'll see if anyone is knows about it or does it. And if they do, then we have a talk about it and it's fun. But it's helped my life tremendously. And it's not even something like my band, they know I do it. They know I like kind of sneak off into a private area and just kind of fucking take out this little fucking scroll. And if they, and do like 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at the night, but there's so many things I love about it, but one of the things I love about it is just the compassion that it has for everyone, whether you fucking drink, whether you don't drink, whether you hate God, whether you fucking don't, whether you think you do, whether you aren't sure, whether you're, it's just all about, just being compassionate towards all kinds of thought and yeah, like I like to repeat myself. Hopefully at the end of the day, people can say, yeah, this Jordan guy, he's he's gone through some fucking shit, but he still seems to be enjoying his life. And, and then to those people, I say, well, I wouldn't be able to do that without this practice. I truly don't believe.
No, that's beautiful. Because
was that too long an answer?
Welcome to podcast. Welcome to podcast.
Okay.
It roots you. And that's obviously at the end of the day, regardless of, religion, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, that's ultimately what will anchor you to the ground, So
yeah. And I wish I get it, man. People don't find, I wasn't, you're considered a fortune baby if you kind of grow up with parents that do this. And I just like many, many, many other people find it when they're at their lowest. And that's 2009. That is just, it makes you kind of I know this is going to sound terrible, but you look at the worst parts of your life and eventually, because another thing that they really reinforce is that this will get you through anything. You have it inside of you to get through anything. There's nothing that is so fucking hard where you just figure, I'm just going to curl over. I'm going to curl up and die.
There you go.
to reference an old band. And so that is I'm just so thankful for the practice. I'm so thankful I found it. I meet with Marsha. She's the district leader. She's this 80-year-old Buddhist woman. I meet with her every week for coffee. I just met with her yesterday. It was really funny. This 100-year-old man backed into my car and then tried hitting and running, but he was 100. And so like his version of a hit and run was like 3 miles an hour. So I literally had to run up next to him and knock on the window and say, "You just designed my car." But then the thing is like, and then you get back and me and Marsha, we just laughed about it. And it's just, that so encapsulates how inspired I am by her and by anyone else I meet, in this practice. It's just that you can get through, you can laugh at you can get to a point where you can smile and laugh and say, I'm not going to have a ruined day because I just got a dent in my car. Like, did you see how fucking funny that was? That guy tried speeding away at 3 miles an hour. It was hilarious. So it actually loops back to that question you were saying about being silly, and it's all about enjoying life. This practice does not have any punishment. There's no fire and brimstone. There is hell, but it's only the hell that you live in during your day because you have chosen to live that way.
Okay, that was Mr. Jordan Buckley. Like I said, he was ready to chat, and I was very excited to have him because I think he's a very interesting person where, he has put his discipline towards a few different things, obviously playing guitar, obviously creating visual art, but, his trajectory, and anytime anybody has some sort of, public fallout, I think when people not even reinvent themselves, but go back to what brought them into this whole thing in the first place, that's exactly what I hear in what Jordan has articulated in this interview, and then what he's put forth with Better Lovers. And it's just really exciting to see a person be able to continue to be creative and put good music out in the world, or good art in general. So shout out to Jordan, and shout out to Monica, who is publicist extraordinaire. And I just like it when people are kind to the show and bring good ideas to the table. So next week, I have Nick Acosta, who runs a record label called New Morality Scene. And if you are paying attention to the, sort of indie label scene from, Days and Triple B and all that sort of stuff, Sunday Drive Records, that is the pond that Nick swims in. And I wanted to have him on because I've been friends with him for a while. I really respect the label that he does. But then on top of it, I was just like, I want to pick his brain because he has, opinions about stuff. And I want to know what it's like running a record label in 2024. And then we ping pong to a bunch of other different places. So it's not the traditional interview, so to say, or so to speak, but it's more of a, conversation, as it were, even though all of these are conversations, but you get it. So that's what we have on the show next week. Until then, please be safe, everybody.